Hello, welcome to Search with Sean, and this is a new episode all around SEO and AI news. I can't even remember what episode we're on, but anyway, this is there's been a few of them basically, so go back and watch the rest of them because it's been some really interesting stuff. So today, obviously, for myself, Sean, as you probably know by now, I've been working in digital marketing now for a good few years, working in SEO for several years, and currently the SEO manager at Macmillan. And sometimes I'm going to be joined by a guest. And today I have the wonderful Maxine, who actually works alongside me at Macmillan. So Maxine, hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. It's hot in England for once, but getting used to that. But yeah, thanks for joining me. We'll kind of get cracking. Basically, Maxine also works in SEO and really knows her stuff, and so she'll be chipping in with some viewpoints on the stories today.
So no need for an introduction from me.
Well, you know, you're welcome to say a few words.
There's not much more to add, really, I don't think. So I work with Sean, and together we do good stuff on SEO. So,
well, hopefully, we'll let the others be the judge of that. I'm sure we've got things wrong. So yeah, generally, I just wanted to start off the show with a few pushes because we've done some great things on the channel recently. I've done lots of chats and interviews with different people in the industry. Recently with Sarah Tahir. It's a really good chat all around agency life. She's got a new course coming out. Just different things going on in SEO, where it's going, where the current state of search and that kind of thing. Also chatted to Daniel Foley Carter, who again launched a new SEO tool which is based around Search Console and AI, which is really interesting. And he also offered a 50% discount. So if you go on to my LinkedIn, you'll see that discount. Also, Nick Swan, who's the founder of SEO Testing, also offering a free trial. So again, if you go onto my LinkedIn, you'll see that offer there with the link to where to sign up. Yeah, well, we've done a few anyway. So I just wanted to make sure that you take advantage of those offers because, yeah, they're very good tools. And I think just check them out if you're interested in SEO. And if you don't use Search Console, then probably not doing your job properly. So Search Console is so important. So those tools will help you utilize that even further. And yeah, I'm looking to do more types of different videos on this channel. And one of them is around discussions. I want to get a panel of people interested in AI, digital marketing, SEO, obviously, and discuss about different topics. I put it on my LinkedIn, things like what's the future of AI, the future of search, those sort of really interesting topics, and really kind of go down the rabbit holes and stuff without any sort of judgment or anything. So if you're interested in getting involved in that, then drop me a message or comment on here. And finally, I just want to say Alida Solis, as you should know if you work in SEO. If you don't, go and follow her. She's got her own WhatsApp channel, which is really great because you get SEO news directly to your WhatsApp. So just check that out. She's got a newsletter, so I'm sure you can sign up to that and you'll have all the info on there, or just somewhere on her LinkedIn will probably be there, or she's on X and all those other social channels. So yeah, that's for me all the promo out the way. And if you do like SEO news and AI news and all that kind of jazz, then please do like and share and subscribe because we're getting a lot of views, but not many subscriptions. So yeah, that would be really great if you want to get that news first. So just jumping onto the slide. So as we usually do, we've introduced the channel. Just recapping on last episode. And I think that should say episode 4, actually. Coming up on episode 4, that's me being lazy and not updating slides properly. But like I say, there've been quite a few now, so I'm losing track, to be honest. But generally, on the last episode, we went through the end of continuous scrolling on Google. We discuss the latest spam update, the latest on Reddit and AI overviews, and the latest on the Google API document leak. So if you want to go back to that, which will be episode 3, I believe, then yeah, check that out. I'll put a link somewhere here. And on this episode, it's actually really exciting. And I think because me and Maxine have a history of talking a lot, we could be on here for a few days, but we're going to try and limit it. But we're going to talk about the future of AI. There's some really interesting thoughts out there from the leaders in the industry. The SEO job market, there's some interesting data around that come out. Cyrus Shepherd has done an experiment that was quite an interesting one around links and stuff, and country specific performance. There's a few stories come out around that side of things, and also another kind of study around zero clicks, which we did kind of touch upon last time, but we're going to go further into it from Rand Fishkin. So yeah, let's get into it. And the future of AI. So I wanted to cover this because in recent weeks, there's been a few of the leaders, as I say, in the industry come out and give their thoughts on the future of AI. And one person, and before I start, obviously all the links, everything we discuss as usual in the description. So if we, if I don't pronounce things properly, or I've talked too fast or don't cover everything, which there's not enough time to, then obviously you can check out the articles for yourself or the videos, which will be in the description. So yeah, basically Yuval Noah Harari, who is really great at talking, I suggest go and watch his stuff, has talked about the future of AI and expressed some concerns and some predictions. So I'll just go through a few of the key points. So Harari expresses concern that very few people...
Very sorry for that. That was my cat deciding he jumped down the back of my desk, because why not? And I'm pretty sure he's stuck there for the rest of this call now, so sorry to interrupt.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sure people forgive the cat. So let's just go over the key points. So Harari expresses concern that very few people currently understand the financial system. As AI makes finance even more complex, this number could drop to 0, leading to a crisis where no human, including politicians and regulators, can understand or manage financial systems. He goes on to say, Harari compares the current situation to the Industrial Revolution, where new technologies led to significant societal changes and numerous failed experiments like imperialism and communism. He stresses the importance of learning from history to avoid repeating these failures with AI. And he also says, good institutions are essential for managing AI and ensuring it benefits society. He emphasizes the need for human oversight and the development of robust regulatory frameworks to prevent AI becoming uncontrollable. And finally, he says, Harari acknowledges the potential of AI to help solve the climate and energy crisis by developing more efficient and eco-friendly technologies. So, that's some warnings, and also some things that AI could potentially help society and the world generally resolve. And just to finish up and moving on to the next one is from Mustafa Suleyman, the CEO of Microsoft AI, and he spoke with CNBC. I think that's an American news channel, about the future of artificial intelligence. And he said some controversial stuff, which we'll get to, but I'll just go over the key points. So Suleyman emphasized the importance of developing global governance mechanisms to ensure AI technologies benefit society. He stressed the need for robust safety measures and ethical considerations, given AI's unprecedented capabilities and potential risk. Suleyman discussed the transformation potential of AI, predicting that in the future it will produce knowledge and scientific discoveries at minimal cost. This could radically change how society values and interacts with knowledge. He advised parents and educators to focus on adaptability and digital literacy for our children. Traditional textbook-based learning remains important, but embracing new technologies and learning methods is crucial. And just finally, and this is the kind of controversy around what he said, I guess, for SEOs especially, Solomon recognized that controversy over whether AI companies have effectively stolen the world's intellectual property by using content without explicit permission. He pointed out that while some content is freely available under the assumption it can be used for indexing and other purposes, other content explicitity, it's been one day morning when my mouth and kind of basically saying that, when it's been used for indexing and other purposes, other content kind of prohibits such use, creating a grey area that will likely be, litigated in courts. So Aleda Solis, who I talked upon about earlier, she kind of replied about this statement and said, "You've got to be kidding. Fair use," he says. Fair use is to consume the information as a user following the site's conditions. It doesn't involve to copy, reuse for commercial purposes. And if you intend to do so, you should ask for permission and pay whatever requested if allowed. This is ridiculous. So apart from me getting tongue twisted, there's a lot of talking, and I need to take more drink, I think. But generally, Maxine, any initial thoughts there on those stories?
So I think for me, I think AI obviously has been presented as either a really amazing thing or the be all and end all, and it's going to destroy the world and no one's going to have a job and no one knows what to do. And basically the concept that our brains are just going to malfunction because we're not doing anything ourselves. And in that interview, which I'm sure you'll link below, is that they do state everyone had these thoughts about calculators. And even before watching their dialogue, I was chatting with a friend about this and said exactly the same thing. Calculators, everyone was like, well, people just won't do maths anymore. And the impact on education. I think obviously there are risks, and I think that's the issue really around AI is how much risk we're willing to take and how far we're willing to push and develop it. But I don't see the future becoming just solely AI. I mean, there's got to be regulation. There's got to be acknowledgement of use of content. The idea of paying for everything, I think there's a fine line of what's available online already for free and people can access, like even like journals and web articles. But it also opens a possibility for people to go, oh, well, if you want to use my information, I'm going to charge you an absurd amount for information that I'm sure if you dug deep enough yourself, you would be able to find and source for free. So I think there's definitely regulation and discussions that need to happen around that. But I don't think we're quite at that point yet. Obviously, we're still seeing that there are errors in how AI is processing data. But it's where that goes in the next couple of years and sort of how that develops, I think will be time will tell. It's probably more so the idea there. But I definitely think there's benefits for education and even the financial sector and finances. I don't see it being that all human interaction is going to stop with it. Like, we still need to be able to do things ourselves. It's a tool at the end of the day for us to develop and understand new information and learn. But we're still quite far, even though it's developing very rapidly. So I think a lot of areas have been addressed, but there's still a lot of things to iron out at the moment.
Yeah, for me, I think on the Harari one, you make some very valid points. There are very few people. If you ask people to sit down, normal people don't work in finance, to explain the financial market and to explain interest rates and things around finance, they wouldn't have a clue. I couldn't tell you really. I mean, I got to it. But so you let AI say, okay, go and improve these systems, go and make them work correctly and automate them and that kind of thing with no human intervention, that is becoming quite dangerous, where they could perhaps create systems where no humans really understand. That's what he's saying. So that is dangerous, because obviously, like, if you work in a company and you change systems quite dramatically and you don't really inform most of the people working there, and then you leave, for example, they have no idea what's going on, because they have no idea what the system is. They have no idea how to use it, so that's, you know, and these AI are going to be far more intelligent than any human being. So, you know, that is concerning if we don't, you know, have these control levers in place. And then in terms of the, you know, the Microsoft side of things, I mean, you know, we got to be careful in terms of the internet is, you know, it's full of rubbish, but also it's full of some good stuff as well. And we want to make sure that that good stuff remains being created and developed, and, you know, and if people aren't getting rewarded for creating that good content, or being recognized at least, then they're going to stop creating it. You know, that's the you know, what's going to happen. So, you know, either they start charging for it, but we've seen like people get quite put off by that kind of thing if it's behind a paywall and that kind of thing all the time. Or, you know, they just, like I say, they stop, and then we do get full of just rubbish on the internet to read. So, you know, I think what people like Celise are saying is they have to start recognizing the publishers. And then obviously we've seen, you know, with some of the AI overview results, that they're linking to publishers that just aren't even relevant, or they're not even on like the first or second or third page or something. So, you know, if you are going to recognize people, make sure it is actually the best people at creating top, you know, content for that particular topic. So there's a lot to do still. Like you say, I think, you know, people are worried about the future. I think we have started too late on the regulation. I think the regulation should have been in place a long time ago, honestly, before we started rolling out things like ChatGPT. And, you know, we're going to be going on to the next version of ChatGPT soon, number 5, and that's going to be extremely advanced. And Elon Musk is talking about the next version of Grok, or whatever it's called. That's going to be far more advanced. And then we got the whole, you know, Gemini and you know, Perplexity, and all those are going to keep developing and then keep on doing their stuff, and people are going to keep churning out AI based content, and it's going to become very, very messy, even more messy than it is now. And as we've seen, Google found it very hard to control it so far with their
I mean, we've seen it even on social media. That is meant to be regulated, and we're still in a giant mess of social media. And you think how long that has been in like the public domain. That I completely agree that it's too late. But I mean, we've got obviously some EU regulations that are stopping Apple to willingly roll out some of their AI products in the EU. But I think even on the finance side of things as well, it kind of highlights maybe a bit of a gap that humans need to fill as well, in terms of like actually having that education earlier on in life about, I mean, interest rates. Again, I own a house. I only learned about interest rates when I had to, whereas it is a really important skill for people to know how to manage money, and know you don't need to know everything about the stock market. And much like, you know, you can just go and Google the gaps that you don't have the knowledge. But I think that AI does have that benefit, but yes, it needs to be accurate. And I think we've seen that with the AI overviews, that it isn't always accurate. And we've seen that with the models that are out there, that they're not always churning out the correct information. Yeah, it's definitely tricky ground, I think, to navigate as an SEO, as a member of the public, just trying to use it for whatever purposes. I mean, my mum used it to write a poem And I know as a team we discussed the other day about it. There's a risk as well of AI taking away that creativity from humans, almost taking advantage of our laziness. But yeah, I see a positive future for it, but I think there is a lot of potholes along the way.
Yeah, as long as we use it to, knowledge should be power. We shouldn't, the world shouldn't be revolved around money and, currency and stuff. It should be knowledge. That's how it basically used to be. And obviously, if AI can enhance that and get it back to that kind of way of living, that would be amazing. But obviously, we don't, like you say, we don't want it to go the other side where it makes humans even more lazy. Not saying everyone's lazy, but obviously we have got a bit of a culture now where, because we've got things that can make us lazy that we never used to have, TV and internet and stuff. So, it could be a good thing, but like with most things, we've got to make sure that we take advantage of it and we don't turn it to doing things that are not productive for humankind, like war and that kind of thing. So yeah, we'd be interested to see where it goes, and obviously we'll track it on here and see if any more sort of statements come out, and obviously we'll track all the developments of AI as it goes along. So the next story is the SEO job market. There's been some interesting sort of studies and come out. This was some search engine land, and again, all the links will be in the description. And basically, the headline is search marketeers less happy with their jobs versus last year. And 67% of search marketers are extremely or somewhat satisfied with their job. However, this number is down from 76% a year ago. The most frequently cited challenge is securing sufficient resource, time, talent, and money, according to 54% of respondents. Demonstrating and providing a positive business impact was a significant challenge for 43% of respondents, and cross-department collaboration was a challenge for 41% of respondents. So I guess we'll just discuss that one quickly, and then we'll go on to the next story because it is related, but not directly related. So I guess for me, it's not that surprising that there's kind of a decrease. I think that's probably across most sectors. I don't think SEO's it's solely down to them only. I think generally across the country with the cost of living crisis, and obviously it's across the world, that kind of thing that's going on at the moment with the economies and stuff, that everyone's feeling the pinch, and that will kind of creep into your work life as well. And obviously because of that issue, there's been companies that are laying people off and that kind of thing. So I think it's going to kind of creep into your job. And, I guess the most frequent challenge around sufficient resource, time, talent, money, that kind of thing is all tied into that. There's not as many resources because there's not the money there, there's not the people there. And it's obviously, it's very frustrating for SEOs because we heavily rely on other teams to help us do stuff, unless you work in house and it's just one of you and you could just go in and do it yourself, which obviously you're still going to have time issues. And demonstrating positive impacts is always a challenge. I talked to Sarah Tahir about that, and it's a challenge, and people like to get information in different ways. You've got to learn how the stakeholders prefer to get their information. It's a very challenging thing for all SEOs. I think if you work in-house or an agency, that is always a difficult one to, not only educate about SEO, but also demonstrate how you're doing your job properly. And then cross-department collaboration, I guess, with, again, all the challenges I just said, just rolls into one. They've got less resource, and they've got less time to be able to give you and and it just rolls into a massive snowball where no one has any time, any resource, and nothing kind of gets done. So yeah, nothing really surprised me there, but I guess it's just, now it's in the data that's proven. So Maxine, any thoughts from your end?
I don't think I have too much to add, to be honest. I think we can all agree the economy and just the climate of the world at the moment isn't the best. And I think those factors, even if you're aware of it or not, do weigh you down. I think definitely the challenges around time, talent, and money are prevalent, but they are across all industries. It isn't just SEO. And I think that the main thing for me that I think that stood out was actually proving the value of SEO within. That's the second cat that's just done exactly the same as the other one. So my knitting needles didn't go flying, so I do apologize. But yeah, I think the business value, we've definitely experienced challenges in our roles. I know I have in the past as well, of having to demonstrate the value of SEO, and that's not just to higher ups, that's to different teams. And I think also what falls into that is that we're not just dealing with our job as SEOs doing the job. You've also got to factor in that there's updates going on and algorithm changes, and obviously the environment that we live in, the world, it changes every day. Search trends change every day. That obviously does impact the value that SEO can have. And yeah, again, as I've just kind of acknowledged, the cross-department collaboration, the bigger the organization, I think the harder that is. So and it normally is big organizations that do tend to have an SEO person or dedicated team. So 41% of respondents, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. And the next story is, like, say, related, but so search marketing gender pay gap is widening apparently, and men earn an average of 36% more than women in search marketing in 2024, according to a new Search Engine Land survey. In the survey, they asked non-binary and preferred not to say. However, there was too few respondents for a meaningful analysis. The search marketing pay gap is less pronounced in senior positions. Men in senior positions earn 8% more than women. So again, no real surprise, I guess, with the trends in other industries seem to be very similar. It does surprise me, I must say, that the gap is still so large, because there's so many great SEO women in SEO, and it does really surprise me that has continued to widen, because actually, like I said, there's so many great women and non-binary and people in the industry, that it does surprise me. But then again, it kind of doesn't, because that if you look at stats from other industries, it usually says the same stuff. So yeah, I guess, any thoughts on your end on that?
I guess, obviously, I'm a heterosexual woman. It's a statistic that bothers me. And I think in my brain, one of the ways I kind of look at it, I'm like, well, that's, I probably wouldn't see that if I was being taxed anyway, if I was, earning the same as a man. That is kind of, my justification of being able to cope with it. I think the thing that needs to be considered as well is the jobs that women are going for in SEO. Is it that they're looking at part-time work because they've got other commitments like raising a family? But I think regardless, we're all doing the same job. We should be being paid the same. If you've got more than one person in the organization and they're both doing the same role, obviously you've got people's experience varies, and that is a factor that has to be taken into consideration when you hire someone. But I think one of the things that probably plays into this is that there isn't that recognition over time when people start out in the lower positions, that they are seeing that their salary increases with their skill, whereas men in other studies of just in the job market in general tend to jump position, and women tend to more likely are to sit in the same position because they're happy with their job and their role. I mean, yeah, it bothers me. And I feel like businesses don't address it. I think they go, oh, we've done this gender pay gap report, and it has the information there, but they don't actually act on it. That's my beef with the pay gap. I think everyone should be pretty much on the same benchmark, unless they've got significant skill differences. But that, again, that isn't to do with gender. That's to do with their ability as an SEO. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. It's one of those things you could just discuss forever, and I know what you and I are like. So.
You made some very valid points, and yeah, I mean, it's it's going to vary between country and stuff as well. I know in America they pay a lot more for SEOs usually than in Europe, and that kind of thing. So I guess it will vary, but still, it's not good to see, and hopefully that will change next year when we look at this again. So we look at the next story. It's around Cyrus Shepherd, who's great, and you should follow him. Does some really good, especially like experiments and stuff around SEO. And what he did was he disavowed every link to his website in Search Console to see if anything happened. And just a reminder, disavow is only a hint. So when Google reserves the right to use their own judgment when evaluating disavowed links, which means they can completely ignore any directives if you're not careful. So it doesn't necessarily mean that because you say to Google you want it disavowed, they can actually do it at all. A bit like, other things like structured data and that, they don't always use it. It's not 100% they're going to use it. And recently, John Mueller, our friend at Google, recently tweeted that he's sure that Google will remove the disavow tool completely at some point. So stay tuned. But basically, what happened was nothing. That's the general gist of it. Nothing happened. And Cyrus said he can understand Google's logic around removing the tool. He said he agrees that the tool's overused. However, it does give site owners a degree of both comfort and control over their Google search performance, something they desperately desire. So he doesn't think they should get rid of it. But it's interesting, in total, he disavowed over 2,700 links. It's always been a contentious sort of subject. Should you disavow links? Should you not? Should you bother? I can see the benefit of doing it. If you've got very spammy links that you don't want to be associated with them, and you would like to tell Google that's not anything to do with us, so please ignore it. But also, people probably overdo it, and really, Google hopefully are becoming quite sophisticated now that they could tell the connection between the two websites that are linking together and kind of ignore those that aren't relevant anyway without you having to do anything. So yeah, any thoughts, Maxine?
I think, to be honest, John saying that Google plan to remove the tool kind of says it all, in terms like the proof's in the pudding almost. That, again, you don't want to have an association with a poor performing or negative website that is just spam. Like, nobody wants that. But the reality is, as well, is if it is a spam style website, is how likely users are finding them. But there has to be, from John's statement, some knowledge somewhere in Google that they're not associated. That's how I see this, is that if they're going to remove it, Google know. They know.
Yeah. No, I think so. So moving on to the next story. And if you are liking this and you want to see more of these sort of SEO and AI news stories, we're going to keep churning them out every week or so, probably a couple of weeks. Then obviously please subscribe and like the video. That would be really awesome. So we're looking at more country-specific performance news now. There's been a couple of stories that have come out. So the first one was that my friend, again, that I try and pronounce every time, it keeps cropping up in the stories, is Google's Gary Illes. Do you think I'm saying that right, Maxine?
I think so. I'd say Gary Les as well. Yeah.
I try to watch videos, and everyone pronounces it
got it wrong.
So yeah, Google's Gary Illes confirmed that country code domain names perform better in search results because Google gives it an edge to local sites. So he regularly does question and answer sessions, and this came from a question that said, when a Korean person searches Google in Korean, does a .com.kr domain or a .com domain do better? And Gary said, good question. Generally speaking, the local domain name, in your case .kr, tend to do better because Google search promotes content local to the user. So I think it's no real surprise, but it is a question asked frequently by SEOs. And the next story that's related is, well, I got it from Brody Clark, who discussed it. And again, someone you should follow on LinkedIn, really share some awesome stuff on there. So basically, Google is now testing out a new country-specific label in the search results. So yeah, Brody said, I've seen this type of testing in the past for specific sites in the UK and Europe, where Google is introducing new features for snippets that relate to algorithmic classification rather than relying on input like structured data. So yeah, on both of those, I mean, I think the first one makes sense. It's like, you know, that Google are going to even further start to, you know, prefer local based content as they start, you know, personalization more and more into so where people are based and where they're searching from and that kind of thing. So I expect that to get even more sort of focused on in the future. And then the second story, I think that's quite an interesting thing to do by Google, because obviously when you're, so, and we've seen it at Macmillan, you know, when people search information around certain cancer types or cancer support information, obviously there's a lot of kind of high-end American-based medical websites that may not give users the kind of information they're looking for, because the way different cancers are, you know, supported in different countries changes. You know, our healthcare system's a lot different to the US, but they may not be aware that it's a US based website because they might not have that knowledge. So if it indicates which are British and which ones are American and so on and so forth, I think that could be quite a good thing. So yeah, any thoughts, Maxine?
Yeah, I think the clarity around sort of location is really important. And I mean, yes, you're completely correct that the experience we've had in our roles at Macmillan is that there is a very large search presence from the US, particularly, you know, Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins, like leading medical sites and organizations. I think having that differentiation is important. I think the one concern would be is actually how clear that is. If it's going to be something that people, if it's a flag, not everyone's going to know every flag in the world. That I think it's good, but it depends how it's implemented. Is quite important. But in regards to local domains, I think it makes sense. I mean, you know where you are. If you've got a .uk, you presume it's a UK website. .com, I think, is maybe a bit more difficult regarding like the local domains, particularly if you're operating from one website across various locations. But yeah, it completely makes sense that local domains tend to do better. But I would like to see a case study of, you know, an organization or a business that has two domains in two locations with a similar like turnover and profit, that in terms of their search positions for the same products, I think would be really interesting. The reality of that would actually be able to happen is another thing. But yeah, again, it's not a surprise that it does better. Also, it's just clearer for the user as well.
Yeah, and like we say, it's a better user experience if you're searching in Korea, that you get results that are focused, that are from Korea and that are focused around Korean, that have the right language and the right sort of, information around what the user's looking for. I'm not saying obviously you have a .com website that we have lighting issues going on here. There we go. Telling me to shut up. So I think, obviously .com websites can have the same base kind of content, but I think obviously usually the local based domains will usually be more specific to that certain market. So obviously not always the case, and obviously there are ways around that with .coms, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that develops. And we'll go on to the next story. So we did cover this slightly, but I didn't go in great detail. So, and it has developed in terms of the some of the data that's come out of it. So this is from Rand Fishkin, who obviously you should follow again. I was kind of really big behind the latest kind of Google API document leaks. And yeah, basically he did a study around zero-click search data, and it was alongside SEMrush, the company that owns SEMrush, and basically found that for every 1,000 EU Google searches, only 374 clicks go to open web, and in the US it's 360. So it goes on to say, equally concerning, especially for those worried about Google's monopoly power to self-preference their own properties in the results, is that almost 30% of all clicks go to platforms Google owns. So that's YouTube, Google Images. Oh, what is going on? Google Maps. It's all going off today. Google Maps, Google Flights, Google Hotels, Google App Store, and loads more. So Google gets even more monetization and sector dominance power from their search engine. And for years, search marketers have worried about how many searches Google is answering themselves without sending clicks anywhere. And now for the first time, they've been able to compare the two regions, US and EU. And in 2024, 60%, 59.7% of European Union Google searches and 58.5% of American Google searches resulted in zero clicks. So searches either ended their session entirely, 37% of the time, or changed their search query to something else. That's 22% of the time. So, yeah, I mean, that's really interesting that, that 30% of all clicks go to platforms that Google owns. I don't think we've seen they're trying to cover most things themselves these days, even looking at credit card comparisons and obviously flights and looking for people to book directly via the platform, not going to any flight information websites or anything like that. Currency converters, you name it. So that doesn't surprise me. But and then obviously the zero clicks is something that we've been trying to tell and educate people in our company around, because you're still getting the brand out there, you're still getting some sort of brand recognition, but you may not be getting the clicks to your website. And I think my light is giving up today. We've had cats, we've had lights, it's all going off. I need to look at that. But yeah, for 57% of 59.7% of EU Google searches ending in 0 clicks is quite dramatic, actually, quite large. So yeah, I don't know if that's quite surprising. So I don't know if you've got anything to say while I try and fix whatever hell.
I think it's one of those things that it isn't a surprise, but it is. I think, I mean, over the years, even before I was an SEO, and obviously search landscapes changed quite a lot, Google did have a lot of presence and promotion of its own tools and resources. Obviously, some are very, very helpful. Maps for me is a game changer, but I think there is definitely a bit of an issue with the dominance of SERP features, and for some search queries now, you do actually have to scroll before you can see normal results, which I think obviously there's an element of where these SERP features are helpful, but they also hinder people's access to information as well. I think it's going to be an interesting one, particularly with all the chaos that's happened over the AI overviews and them sort of redacting that. I think, yeah, it's not a surprise. I hope it changes, but I can understand for some things there is a benefit of having that access there. But I'd say that's more for like life tools than when you're searching for specific information that you need to go on a journey to be able to explore. I think there's, particularly even with the people also ask, you open the accordion and it opens another accordion, and it just is sort of this endless push of information from Google rather than you being able to sort of research things for yourself. Yeah, 0 clicks, I think, is going to be a concern for SEOs for a while. But the competition is fierce anyway for SERP features, so I think that's going to ramp up quite significantly if people aren't clicking through to search results. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think there's a bit of me that's concerned, part of me that knowing Google things in a year will have completely changed and swapped around, that you don't know what's coming. But yeah, I think it's something we kind of knew was coming regarding the 0 clicks, the way information is presented on Google. So how about you? Any thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, well, now I knew I had to get a new light, but now it looks like it's going to press me to get one sooner than I thought I was. Yeah, I mean, for me, there is concern over 0 clicks. I think there's an educational piece there when for SEOs, we're going to have to tell people to expect less traffic directly to the website. The organic levels may drop, but that now it's about education around visibility and how we can increase the visibility on the SERPs and what we need to do to get that. But obviously it may keep on growing, if there's going to keep pushing down the organic results with different things and creating more SERP features and that kind of thing, and what they do with paid, we don't know. So the real estate on the first page is becoming less and less, as we've seen in years. The amount of organic results that keep shrinking, and that becomes a lot more difficult, like you say, a lot more competitive. The only bright side I can see is that, one, people don't like change, so I can see, and I've talked to experts, and they think it's very likely that Google could revert, as you say, back to some simpler ways that they used to have. And also I do think if they continue to do personalization and more focused around where you're based and your interest and stuff, that could help. If you're one of the top sort of voices in your topic area, it could help you get more visibility and hopefully ride out that sort of drop. But yeah, times are changing. The way people consume information is different. Obviously, Google's going to prefer their own tools. I think if you work in other industries, it would be quite concerning. If you work in the travel industry, things would have changed dramatically on the search results, and in other sectors as well. And obviously, they start trying to do other things on there, like credit card comparison and all that kind of thing they've been trying to test out. So yeah, it's going to be a testing time. And obviously for SEOs, it's about education around, educating different stakeholders and managers and clients around, don't be so focused on the traffic levels. I know that's really hard to say, but there are other ways we can measure success in an organic world as well. And that's, to be considered. But yeah, it's tricky. And then, yeah. What's interesting is that the figures higher in Europe than it is in America. Yeah, America have many more. Well, did until they rolled back, but the overviews were, barely in the UK and stuff. So that's quite interesting. So yeah. Sorry, do you have anything else to say, or should we crack on?
I was just going to say, I think even so, like the Google Flight element, for example, that obviously has been around for quite a while. And hopefully, in terms of the travel industry, they're aware of the impact that has had. It's been there for quite a while now, and hopefully have adapted, probably more so their pricing of like accommodation, flights, and all that jazz, to be competitive within showing in the Google Flights. I'm trying to think what you'd call it, the Google Flights area of Google. But I think it's no surprise, is it? But yeah, shall we try and see if we can blast? I'm keen to see if we can get through everything. I'm like, we're
Yeah,
almost.
I know. It's a really good topic, isn't it? So the next one is we go into other news, and this one was really interesting. And we are going to try and cover kind of quirky AI stories when we can. So this Canadian lawyer is under fire for submitting fake cases created by AI chatbot. So a lawyer in Canada is under fire after artificial intelligence chatbot she used for legal research created fiction-based cases in the latest episode to expose the perils of untested technologies in the courtroom. The Vancouver-based lawyer Chong Ki, who now faces an investigation into her conduct, allegedly used ChatGPT to develop legal submissions during a child custody case at the British Columbia Supreme Court. According to the court documents, Key was representing a father who wanted to take his child overseas on a trip, but was locked in a separation dispute with the child's mother. Key is alleged to have asked ChatGPT for instances of previous case law that may apply to her client's circumstances. So I'm sure this isn't the first time ChatGPT got someone in trouble at work. But it does, it does state that it does make mistakes and it does hallucinate. And anyone who uses it knows it clearly makes stuff up a lot of the time. Well, not a lot. That's probably being a bit harsh, but it does make stuff up. We've seen it ourselves where it kind of just creates URLs that don't even exist when it does analysis work. And, if I was a lawyer, I probably wouldn't trust it as much as I trust Wikipedia, for example. I wouldn't go and trust Wikipedia 100% if I was a lawyer and take that as into the courtroom. So yeah, just any thoughts on this story?
I think one of us just needs to call Netflix. Honestly, this just sounds like it could be a TV series, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, you just kind of go, what were you thinking? Is kind of, and obviously she's very intelligent. I mean, she's, got herself through law school, but yeah, I mean, unless it is an attempt to try and get a Netflix series, who knows? But yeah, there's just something you've got to kind of go, it's awful that they've wasted money and time of, the Canadian government law system. I don't know what they call it over there. But yeah, it's just one of those where you go, really? Really? I don't, yeah.
I mean, their
Don't
job's
really
on the
have
line
words.
now.
Yeah.
So that is, it's really damaging. I guess,
And
they
people
could.
pay, like, you pay a lot for a lawyer, particularly, in Canada, the US. For a private lawyer, it is very, very expensive. So yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of ethical issues around this, as well as the humor of being like, why, just why, you know? But
I think, the right way to use it potentially, if you are a lawyer, and look, I'm not by any means, but if you were a lawyer, I think the best way to use it is to find the case study, that actually has from a proven source. And then if you can use ChatGPT to simplify it and to find the key points from that particular case study, that still has its potential issues because it could still hallucinate, but at least you've found it yourself from a proper source.
mm,
Allowing ChatGPT to be that ultimate tool to find it and then summarize it is tricky, because even I've summarized things that I've read through pretty thoroughly, but I still ask them to break it down, and I still find issues that they'll make stuff up, and I'll be like, "Where did you get that from? Sorry," and then like, "Oh yeah, my mistake." So you
yeah,
can't trust it 100%, and they say it themselves, um, but yeah,
yeah, there's
it's
definitely even a thing though of being able to go, okay, well, you could just go to Google and ask for precedents of whatever type of case it is, and I mean, Google Scholar would probably pull them up, Google search results, and then actually even Google going summarize the key, you know, what was the outcome of this case, would probably do it and be more accurate, hopefully. Maybe not in the US, well, Canada, but yeah, I just think it's not the right path, particularly, it's not AI is not 100% reliable. It's just not the right tool for a lawyer or a solicitor, I think, in this case. But yeah, there's not really much you can say other than just, yeah, it's poor use of AI. But then again, it's a prime example of when you shouldn't use it.
yeah. So let's move on. So the next story is from Google, and our search results do not always show original source. So Google's John Mueller, who we've said before, and again, you can check him out on socials, and he does videos for Google on YouTube as well. He said in the last SEO Google office hours video, which I'll put a link to, that Google search results are not an indication of what Google systems consider to be the original source. This means that just because Google ranks a piece of content, it does not necessarily mean that the content is the original source. And this came up in the video where the question by Asif was to John: why would Google consider LinkedIn Pulse articles as an original publisher, even though it was published on our website first? And John Mueller said, thanks for asking. First off, the search results are not an indication of what Google systems consider to be the original source. In general, when you syndicate or republish your content across platforms, you're trading the extra visibility within that platform with the possibility that the other platform will appear in the search results above your website. In some cases, this might be fine. For example, if you want to drive awareness to your website or business in other locations. In other cases, you might prefer to have only your website appear in search. Ultimately, this is a business decision on your end. So, yeah, it makes sense, I guess, and you do it at your own risk, I guess. If you want your website to rank first, then and you put it on somewhere like LinkedIn, which is obviously quite a powerful website, then you do run the risk of that ranking first and people finding it through LinkedIn. If that's a big problem, then obviously you shouldn't share it on certain, maybe look at other social platforms or not bother with that. Any real surprises there from you, Maxi?
Yes and no. I think there's an element that not everyone is going to understand if you don't work in the world of search or had any marketing experience. You don't necessarily understand why that's happening, and that maybe, if you don't have the knowledge there, you would be a bit peed off that your website wasn't ranking above whatever it is. But in my mind, I've always been a bit of an advocate of being like, but if even if it's a LinkedIn post, it's going to have probably the author or business listed within that. So I think, you know, the reality is it a big deal? No, I think that's just a personal opinion if you don't want your business presented that way. But yeah, if you're going to post it on LinkedIn, you can't be angry that it comes up in the search results. And if it's one above your website, is it the end of the world? You know, it still gets people to the information that you've put out. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I guess if it's a big problem, just remove the article from LinkedIn. And, you know, I guess people are annoyed because if they go on their website, they can potentially keep them there, get them to check out or buy the product, whatever the service is. But yeah, if it's a big problem, just get rid of it. So the next story is AI related again. We had a few of these. So AI cameras observing rail users, that's the headline. And unwitting UK rail passengers are having their emotions tracked by a network of Amazon-powered artificial intelligent cameras. Wired reports, again, I put the link in the description, referencing documents that have been made public by Network Rail. Thousands of people across the nation likely had their faces scanned by Amazon software as part of a widespread trial that took place at 8 stations, including London Waterloo, London Euston, and Manchester Piccadilly. The image recognition system used AI to predict travellers' age, gender, and potential emotions. These cameras could detect whether people were happy, sad, and angry as they passed through ticket barriers to catch trains, the Wired journalist Matt Burgess wrote on LinkedIn. Emotion recognition technology has widely been criticised for being intrusive and not reliable. A law enforcement agency says facial recognition cameras bolster security, but privacy campaigners say they're a form of mass surveillance. So yeah, I thought this was really interesting. I'm not a fan of this mass surveillance sort of world. If I'm honest, I think, you know, I get it because, you know, we all want to be safe, but also there is a limit, in my opinion, and we do deserve some sort of freedom, like walking through a train station without being everything of us being explored and, you know, analysed. So yeah, I thought it's quite an interesting story. Maxine, any thoughts?
I have to agree. I don't think it's right or ethical at all. I feel like the information that they're getting from it, a lot of the time, if you book your train tickets online and you've got an account or whatever, or rail card or whatever, they've got some of that information. They'd be better off if they want to know how people found their journey, offering, I mean, again, response rates and things, but offering a survey and offering a discount for the next time they travel rather than tracking them without their permission. I don't like the idea of that at all. I mean, even when I went and traveled to the US and they took my fingerprints when I went into the country, that was a completely new experience for me. And I found that really intrusive because it's just so polar opposite to how things are here. That, yeah, I think any form of mass surveillance, it needs to be like, people need to be aware of it. It's not, you know, we know there's CCTV in public places, that's fine. But when it comes to literally scanning your face and trying to predict different things, I just don't like that at all.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's one thing doing fingerprints, at least you kind of know about it, but doing stuff that you're not aware of and they're being quite secretive over it is, you know, I know it's a trial, but still you should be quite transparent with these
and
things.
It shouldn't be publicly available either if it's a trial, that, you know, if information is out about that trial. I just think it's not great publicity for Network Rail or Amazon. And I just think it really just showcases all the value of our own being as data as well, which I don't think it should be exploited for what is essentially going to be either marketing purposes or financial gain. I think, yeah, it's not a great story, is it?
No. And yeah, we got two more stories, so let's try and cram them in before we hop off. So basically ChatGPT have said they've trained a new model themselves called Critic GPT to catch bugs in ChatGPT 4's code. So they've trained a model based on ChatGPT 4 called Critic GPT. So easy for me to say, to catch errors in ChatGPT's code output. We found that when people get help from Critic GPT to review ChatGPT code, they outperformed those without help 60% of the time. We are beginning to integrate Critic GPT like models into our RLHF. So that's reinforcement learning from human feedback labeling pipeline, providing our trainers with explicit AI assistant. This is a step towards being able to elevate outputs from advanced AI systems that can be difficult for people to rate without better tools. So yeah, basically they've built this Critique GPT model to basically make the current version better. But I just thought it was really fascinating. They go on to say, as we make advances in reasoning and model behavior, ChatGPT became more accurate and its mistakes became more subtle. To help with this challenge, we trained the critique model to write better critiques that highlight inaccuracies in ChatGPT answers. So obviously, if they, we've already highlighted in this episode mistakes being made, they're obviously trying to eradicate those. But I just thought it was really interesting that they train their own model to fix their other model. So it's like, you know me, I like making these models to do different things as well, but it's good to see that they're doing it themselves to fix their own products. So yeah, don't you had any sort of insights into that? Any thoughts?
I mean, I think it's great. I mean, it showcases a good, especially, I mean, they've provided statistics on it as well. So it's clearly working. And obviously, I would just hope that there's some human intervention as well in terms of reviewing and continuing to try and improve the AI. Yeah, I think it's good. Obviously, ChatGPT, there's no one that's going to know it better than Critique GPT. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I just think we need to still be mindful that it needs some human monitoring as well, because if that AI makes mistakes, then it's maybe a bit more detrimental in terms of like playing around with the code and how it functions. Not that I am a codey genius by any means, but yeah, I think it's overall it's good, isn't it? So
yeah, the better it can get, then it's the better it's going to be for everyone. Yeah, it just makes sense really. And the last story is from Search Engine Journal, and it basically Google's clarifies the H1 to H6 headings for SEO. And this was basically a question again, when they did it kind of question and answer sessions with our old mate. I don't know how old he is, but Gary Yiles. But yeah, we talk about him quite a lot on here. So the question was, I recently read on the SEO starter guide that having headings in semantic order is fantastic for screen readers. But from Google search perspective, it doesn't matter if you're using them out of order. Is this correct? Because an SEO tool told me otherwise. So Google's Gary Yiles clarified that while hierarchical, having them ordered in a hierarchical I can't even speak today because it's so hot in here. Yeah. Having the headers in the right order, H1 to H6, are good for accessibility. They are not crucial for SEO, however. The SEO starter guide's recommendation to use semantic order is up to date, despite conflicting advice from some SEO tools. Google's focus is on the overall content quality rather than the strict use of headings in the order. So hopefully that makes sense, apart from me trying. I should have filled up my drink before we started, and I didn't. So it's a rookie error. But we're coming towards the end, thankfully. But yeah, basically, you know, the H1 to H6 is good for accessibility, but not necessarily important from Google's standpoint. I guess obviously that the H1 should always be, the main focal point, and then from there it depends on what the content is or is about and how it's laid out. So yeah, I don't know if you can give me a rest here and get some other
Yeah,
thoughts.
no, it's okay. This is a funny one because I think for me, my opinion on it has changed over time. And a few years ago, I was very much like I would only have them in order and I'd have one of each. I think it is really important to have some acknowledgement of the fact that not everybody has the same accessibility needs. So the more I've learned about accessibility and UX design, I think it is important that we do have some variation in the headings. I mean, always H1 is going to be number one, and content will have a H2. But if it has multiple H2s or is in order, I think is a personal choice. But thing is, you never know what's going to come out of Google next. If the guidelines on, oh, well, now they are important for SEO, it's going to change. I think they've all got their purpose. If you're structuring content, you just need to consider who you're creating the content for, and go from there. I mean, you don't have to include 6 headings because it's H1 to H6. You don't have to, you can just include one if the type of content suits it. For example, if you're just writing like an opinion piece on your own blog or something, like you don't need to have a gazillion headings unless it's broken down into that type of content. So yeah, I think personal preference, but I think it's just important to be mindful of other people's needs when it comes to headings. I am definitely more on the side of structuring content with headings, but that's me. I think every SEO does it differently. Every influence blogger person will do it differently. Every person who has a website will do it differently. It's definitely just personal preference, but I think there are certain things that are set out that people just know and do, like having a H1 on top of the page. Yeah, how about you, Sean? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you just got to listen to what Google is saying, read the guidelines, and make sure you try and follow them as best you can. But as you say, I do think it's a good point because there is 6 options. That means you got to use them all. Obviously, the H1 is vital, and then obviously, after that, just make sense of it from what's in the content, whatever's best for the user as they're reading it. Then obviously, think of that more than anything. It's all about the user and their experience of the content. So yeah, just make sure, like James Brockbank, when I had him on, the Google guidelines are your friend. Make sure you know them and try and stick to them. And if Google says it's not vital that you have them in order, although it is good for accessibility, then obviously read between the lines and try and match both of those things if you can when you're creating content. So yeah, and now I can kind of wrap up because I'm gonna not be able to speak soon. I did not expect this hot weather today. So yeah, it's all good though. So yeah, basically, thanks for tuning in if you've made it to the end, and please do subscribe and like and share because we're going to do more of these in the next few weeks or every couple of weeks, hopefully. There's so much news in search and AI at the moment. There's lots to talk about. So yeah, thank you for joining, and check out all those videos. They're in the description. Everything we talked about today is in the description, all the links you need. And thank you, Maxine, for joining me. I've really appreciated your input and helping me out when I've had lighting issues and voice issues and pronunciation issues and everything else that goes with these shows that I have. And we even heard from your cats, which is
Cat
great as well.
issues, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me.